This is the Iron Hour podcast, and it's Barry here, joined by Max Bell. How you doing, Max?
All the better for seeing you, Barry.
I've never heard that before. And also Mr. Marco
All right
Collega.
then. Do you want me to go, oh yeah, it was really good until I saw you?
We don't want you to say anything. You're not here for the comedy, Max. You're here for the astute analysis, which is something Marco's clearly not here for. How you doing, Marco?
I was okay, but now I'm absolutely terrible. I've seen you.
That's the spirit. Well said.
That's more like it. So, coming up on today's episode, we have a 20-game review from Ben Maidment. We'll have a look at the Alfreton game and have a bit of a discussion. I'm going to give you a warning, guys. It's not pretty. We'll have a bit of a chat about Butler's current position and where the panel sits right now on his position at the club. We'll have our usual hero, idiot, and moment of the week. And all being well, Marco will give us a very good and very detailed FPL update at the back end of the podcast. And I can see him frantically now grabbing his phone to prepare something because I put him on the spot. So, we'll do this
before
week.
we move on, can we discuss Marco's jumper? I feel like we've got to. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine if you saw that coming down the street.
You know what? It's not too early or late for my Giacomo modelling career.
That is absolutely sprayed on.
This is Excel, man. But
Yeah,
I have got like a jumper under this, and I just wore it for purely the fun of a podcast.
Oh yeah, look, you're telling me you're not wearing that whilst flogging pizzas in York?
Christmas jumpers, they do tend to itch a little, and this is no exception. So maybe a nice thin top under, so you don't look like the Michelin man like I do right now.
When you say they start itching, are you thinking like you're going to get halfway through the pod and crack, and it's just going to be like the full Monty?
Oh, it's coming off right now.
And what about the jumper? There he is. Right, let's kick off this week with the 20-game review from Ben Maidment. We'll kick off with that straight away. So, here we go. Well, I'm pleased to say I'm joined once again for the second time on this podcast by Ben Maidment. How you doing, Ben?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good stuff. So, the first question I'm going to ask you is, how's your dad? Any update for us?
Yeah, so today, Tuesday of the day of recording, he has been moved out of hospital now, which is really good news. He's gone to a place for some further rehabilitation, still in Lincoln. So still a bit of travelling for us, but no, he's doing quite well. And we can say now that he's out of hospital, which is brilliant.
No, that is fantastic news. And I know for a fact a lot of Iron fans will be listening to this and will be sighing with relief for sure. So definitely a step in the right direction.
Definitely.
Right, I'm going to bring you down, Ben. You're up high, you're up here, mate, and I'm going to bring you right down. So, the last time we spoke was after 10 league games, and the Iron sat top of the tree, and you gave the season a rating of 7 out of 10. So, 10 games on, 20 league games played, we're down to third, 2 points behind the leaders. I'm guessing your rating out of 10 is going to be a little bit lower than 7.
I'm afraid so. Yeah, I think it's been a really disappointing 10 games. I know there's a little bit more in there with a couple of the cup games and things like that, but to only pick up, I think it's 9 points from a possible 30 is really disappointing. And to just lose that gap that we had at the top, and now to be 2 points adrift with Curs and Ashton still have 2 games in hand on us, with teams around us as far as 10th, I think, have games in hand on us that could catch us. All right, fair enough. They might not win them games. We think sometimes we look at games in hand and we go, oh, they have games in hand, so that automatically means they get points. It's not always the case, but you do look at it very worryingly and think we could be down as far as 10th, which is crazy to think, really, after where we started the season at.
We were 7 points clear at one point. And as you've just said there, Ben, you put it really eloquently, actually. It's not so much the fact that we're 2 points adrift, it's those 2 games in hand they have on us. And it's the fear then of where we could be come Christmas time, isn't it?
Yeah. We had a good chat at Darlington about where we think we should be, and what the expectation is a bit more broader than that. I expected us really this season to be right, probably at the top. I expected us probably to win the league, although not at a canter. It was always going to be difficult. There's some good teams at this level, and there isn't really any easy games. I know that you and the other guys on the podcast had us a little bit lower down in the table. But I think for myself, I expected us to be right up there. So I'm quite disappointed that we have fallen off as it is. But hopefully we're not out of it yet. There's still plenty of games left to go. So hopefully we can start crawling them points back and getting back up there and really fighting for the title.
And to be fair at Darlington, you asked me a really good question, which I'm still trying to work out what my answer to you is. So you asked me whether me suggesting at the start of the season that we would finish fifth. You said, was that A, what you expected us to do? Or was that B, what you expected us to do and would be satisfied with? Because you're quite right, they are two different things. I don't know is the answer. It's difficult for me to say, and I'm still trying to figure out, I guess, maybe 30 games into the season, I might come off that fence and tell you what my answer to that one is. But I mean, in terms of highlights so far this season, Callum Roberts has got 10 league goals from his 19 league games so far this season. But there is the concern, obviously, he didn't feature in the last league game, but Andy Butler has suggested he will be back for the Marine fixture on the 14th. So just a couple of minutes talking about him, really. How influential has he been in this side? And if we were to miss him, what kind of effect do you think that would have on us?
Massive. He's a very, very integral part of how we're playing in the system that we're playing, which I fully understand that a lot of people don't agree with it. But in that system, he's been pivotal to the team. Like you say, 10 league goals and plenty of assists in there and contributions in the attacking thirds where we have been struggling. I say that, but we are also still, I believe, the top scorers in the league. But it's just over the last 4 or 5 games really, where we've gone a little bit dry. But in terms of Callum Roberts, at this level, you don't get many players like that. When he gets on the ball, you always think that something is going to happen with him. You think that he can easily drop a shoulder, get past a man, like we saw it. It was at the Oxford game when he scored that goal where he got past his man and smacked it in the bottom corner. He can do things like that, and there's not many in our side. If you compare to last season, we had the likes of Butterfield in there, who popped up with some goals like that, some sort of drag the team forward by themselves. We haven't got many players, I believe, in the team that can just do that, that can get past a man and hit one from 25 yards, like Roberts can. So if he was to leave, if someone was to come in for him in January, which I think it would have to be a decent deal for us to let him go. But also, I think clubs will be reluctant looking at his injury past and that he is out of contract in the summer as well. So it's really interesting, and it's going to play out quite interesting if someone does come in with an offer of money for him, because I believe someone would have to pay money for him to go. But on the other hand, would we like him to get off our wage bill because he'll be one of the highest earners at the club? It's a really interesting one, but he is pivotal to how we play, and if we do have big ambitions of promotion, hanging on to him could really be key for us until January.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of options, who would cover him if he did go? I've spoken at length on the podcast about where Luke Williams could fit in, but it's hard. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? With 26 league games to go, it's hard to imagine that Luke Williams could, in any world, start 15 plus, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially when Andy Butler on his interview said that it was number 8, which I was quite surprised at.
Stephen Dawson, Matt, too, mate. Is what we need. Big, nasty centre midfielder.
So, I mean, Whitehall played in that kind of role on Saturday. There's not many that especially from our side, that would fit into that 10 role. So I don't want him to go.
There's been a lot, kind of talked about the formations, and for 18 of the 20 league games so far, we have opted for a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2, whatever you call it. And of course, Leamington away and Darlington away, we didn't. We opted for, it wasn't quite a 4-4-2, was it? It was pretty fluid actually in that midfield, and we can talk about that a little bit. But in terms of points per game, it's 1.66 at 3-5-2. So 1.66 points per game. And obviously it's 2 points per game in just those two games. I understand it's a smaller sample size, but 2 points per game with a 4 at the back. Where do you sit on the side of the formations, or do you think is it really that important?
I think there's definitely a part. It plays a big part. I look at the Leamington game where we did play that 4. And I know that we came away and we won the game, but it's one of those where the conditions were so hectic that day. It was such a dreadful day for football that it just became a real battle. Like that day, I don't really think formations came into it that much at all. And I know we won off the back of a 4, and I would love to sit here and say, oh, we were amazing. We played a back 4. We knocked it about. We were brilliant. But I feel that it was just a really dig in, get what you can out of the performance type game. And we did brilliantly to come away with the 3 points from there. But that being said, I would like to see a 4 at the back.
If I had to press you, if I had to say to you, Ben, like, put your finger on it, where's it gone wrong in the last 10 games? What would you say to me?
We have created chances still. And we've, although we are the top scorer in the league, we've not spread them goals out enough. We scored 6 of them goals against Farsley. If you take 2 of them away, we get an extra 6 points over the last 2 games. Individual errors has been a thing as well. We have at times just shot ourselves in the foot. So there, obviously, if you're making errors when you're scoring 2 goals away from home, like at Southport, then you're going to do well to get anything out of games. So individual errors and not finishing our chances and just not being ruthless enough. I think the formation it does play a part, but it's not all down to that. Although I would like to see us be a little bit more attacking and just worry teams, especially at home, a little bit more.
And on Saturday, of course, it's undeniable. We've talked about this on the pod, and we will talk about this a little bit more. But it's undeniable there were boos at full time, and there were chants of "you don't know what you're doing." Social media was particularly loud on Saturday night. It's no secret to anybody. I'm still in the Butlering camp. I still think there's a little bit of time to be given there, and I still think there's an opportunity for him to progress this team. Where do you sit on the argument, Ben?
I would love to sit here and say that I am 100% Butler in, because we've been through managers. We've had plenty through the last 5-6 years. That being said, it's 33 wins in 13-14.
It's not good, that is.
I mean, any manager at most levels, if the objective, which Michelle said at the fans forum, is to win promotion and nothing less, Andy Butler, then to only come away with 3 wins out of 13-14, it's not good enough. So I guess I'm kind of on the fence, but that being said, make of it what you will. I think Jimmy deserved another year.
Yeah, I mean, I also said that, but that's not the situation we find ourselves in, is it? It's kind of, it's like that in between us thing, isn't it? Not really relevant though, is it? Like, I agree, I do agree, but that's not where we are right now. Where we are right now is Andy Butler's in charge, and the board have got a decision to make. And as it stands right now, it's hard to know how many more games he's got, which I know that's bleak thing to say, but there's clearly a clock ticking, isn't there?
Yes. I think Marine's a massive game. If it's any other manager, if it's any other club, and you go and lose at Marine, you think that's it, he's done. Do I think that with Butler? I'm not sure. I think that should be the case, but I'm not sure. I think that if a decision was to be made, I think that right now, when you've got that gap in games, you would probably make it right at the start of that.
Maybe, but then there's the other train of thought, isn't there, that says he's got 2 weeks to galvanise the squad. You're giving him, the argument that the board could make is, well, actually, by giving him these extra 2 weeks, we are giving him every opportunity. We've signed the players he's asked for. We're giving him every opportunity. We're giving him the extra time. He can go do what he wants to do. He can take them on a team bonding exercise for all I care. He can do whatever he wants to do over the next 2 weeks. And the test is then, does he get the result against Marine a week Saturday?
Yeah, it's a good point. Like you say, you are giving him every chance, everything that he could possibly need or have, then he's been given it, really. He can't say that he hasn't been given an opportunity. I would love him to come away with a win, and then we go and win 10 on the bounce and be 8 points clear at the top of the league. But that being said, the way that we have been playing, Alfreton in particular was a really hard watch. So something needs to change, whether it is the style, whether it is the manager, we can only find out.
Finally, then, if I had to press you for a rating again, a rating out of 10, and you can choose to answer this whether you say over the last 10 games or over the season so far. I'll let you answer that how you wish. But if you had to give me a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
I mean, over the last, I'll give you 2. Over the last 10 games, it's probably a 2. It's been woeful in terms of most performances, points, and results. So yeah, overall, we're not out of it. We're still. You've still got to try and be positive, although it's been shocking at times. We have been able to go to places and still win. In isolation, if you look at games like Darlington, if you look at games like Chester, where we haven't played particularly well, but we've got a point, you look at that in isolation and go, it's a good point. If we'd have beat Alfreton at home, the Darlington point, think, yeah, that would have been
we'd still be top of the league, wouldn't we?
Well, yeah. That being said, probably a 5.
Well, that makes sense because 7 plus 2 makes 9, which divided by 2 is 4.5, rounded up to 5. So, yeah, makes about sense.
Yeah,
if you see what that do, something like that. Okay, right. Well, I would say it's been a blast, but that would be an absolute lie. It's been a depressing 15 minutes, Ben, but what can you do? We'll see you for 30 games. And hopefully then, Ben, it's a lot more jovial, a lot more positive. But at least we've got the good news about your old man, eh?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Well, that was the thoughts of Ben Maidment as we get over the line of 20 games so far this season. Some really interesting thoughts there, Max.
Yeah, I agreed with just about every word that Ben said. And genuinely, when you asked him what are your markings out of 10, both for the last 10 games and then the 20 as a whole, 2 and then 5 were exactly what I said to myself as soon as you asked the question. Look, it's been a really difficult stretch for us. I think giving it a 5 out of 10 is probably a fair assessment, in that we're still just about in the hunt if we turn things around. But if this goes on for another month, the goose might be cooked. You know, we've gone from being 7 points clear to now 2 adrift of Curzon, and they've got 2 games in hand. Look, as Ben said, games in hand are not necessarily always guarantees, but we are at the top. They're more likely to be guarantees when you're considering the side who are top of the table and in really good form versus down at the bottom. Look, if the next 10 games aren't better than the last 10 games, we're not getting promoted. It's that simple.
Yeah, quite true that. Marco, Ben gave it a 5 out of 10 for the season so far. If I had to press you for a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
Yeah, I think he's thereabouts. I'd say 5 or a 6. As a season overall, I think we're very close territory to us getting that top spot being impossible, unachievable. And playoffs is definitely the direction, which I think we all predicted, didn't we, at the start of the season?
Yeah, we did.
So look, taking a step back, then yeah, we are where we thought, but from where we've been and with that squad we've got, it's just so frustrating where we are now.
Well, that's the thing. We were 7 points clear, as we discussed there, Max. And same question for you. If you had to rate it out of 10, I mean, you've already said it was a 5. Is there an argument there? Is Marco convinced you to a 6, or do you think he's on drugs?
I think he's awfully quiet. I think he's so depressed that he started whispering when analysing the season so far. No, I think 5 is probably fair enough in that it's not 0. We're not in the relegation zone, but you couldn't justify off the back of the last 10 games it being a 7 or higher. So no, I think I would go with Ben. I would give it a 5, like I say.
What's gone wrong, Marco? Because we were clear at the top, and things have curtailed at such a drastic rate that it is alarming.
Oh, look, if I knew that, I'd be in the dugout.
Well,
who knows? Max
I heard Butlers inviting people to take over.
Max just said, obviously, we're not in a relegation zone, but I think we're in relegation form, which for the form, the size of a team of us, from where we were so clear of the league, dominant, looking really good at home and away. For us to just fall off like we have done for these last 10 games, it is really, really concerning. And if I had to put my finger on where it's going wrong, look, I'm fed up of saying it. I'm sure Butler's fed up of people saying it. I'm sure Radio Humberside's fed up of people saying it. It's for shape. And look, I'm not saying Butler needs to go play with wingers because we don't have that in the club at the minute. But if you're telling me that hasn't been purposely done to suit the formation that Butler wanted to play, that's exactly what's happened. We've not gone out and signed any wingers because what would be the point? We're not going to play them. It's going to be a flat back 5. When it's not a 5, we're playing 3 6-foot+ strikers up front with Whitehall in a 10. I honestly, I cannot get my head around it.
So was you raising your finger there? Was you?
No, I wasn't, but I'm more than happy to jump in.
Jump in.
I'm sure this will shock you, but I have got opinions.
Listen, the floor is yours. This is a bit of a therapy session today. So the mic is yours.
The floor might be ours, but we didn't keep the football on the fucking floor against Alfreton, did we? So, look, there's the issues which presented themselves against Alfreton specifically, and there's the longer term ones. The longer term ones are, I think, that we're conceding shit goals. The way in which you justify this shape is saying, right, you're playing 5 at the back, you're going to keep clean sheets, you're going to be defensively solid, and you're always going to be within a shout of winning games, even when it's away from home. You think of Brackley, you think of Kidderminster, you think of going to Curzon and getting what at the time will be even more so now looks like a really good 3 points.
And we skanked it, didn't we?
Yeah, but you know, that's the plus side of that shape, especially away from home against a decent side. But the way in which we've defended since that, I think of the 3 goals we shipped at Spennymoor, the 3 we shipped at Southport, that for me is the most concerning element that needs fixing, especially away from home. You know, if we defend like that at Marine a week on Saturday, we'll get beat. Like let's not beat about the bush here. And you know, there's only so much polish you can apply to the turd before you start calling it gold. And so that has got to be fixed. I think then There were a number of very specific concerning issues, tactically and personnel-wise, that I thought reared their fat ugly heads at home to Alfreton. But I suspect we're going to come on to discuss them shortly.
Well, looking at that Alfreton game, Marco, and see Mark Beck got another start for us, and we've seen him a couple of times now. Does his inclusion in the squad, does the fact that we brought him in, suggest to you that we are going to play one way and it is going to be direct?
See, I sort of agree with that, but then on the other hand, Matt Beck's goals haven't came from teams hoofing it up Route 1 for 90 minutes. I think to play to Matt Beck's strengths, you're going to have to play those balls down the channel. We're going to have to get crosses into the box. And I mean, on Saturday, it just didn't happen. It was just Route 1, like Max says, the ball is very rarely on the floor. It's easy to assume, look, Matt Beck's there, 6'5", 6'6", obviously very good in the air. Let's hit him. But I think Whitehall in the 10 said everything that you needed to know on Saturday and how we were going to play. It was more a case of us lining up to counter Alfreton rather than them coming to us and worrying about us, which at Granford Park, to me, it's unacceptable. We've got more than enough attacking players in that 11, with Beck included. I do think Beck's a starter. I've been quite impressed with him in phases. Look, we shouldn't be worried about playing Alfreton at home. We really shouldn't.
And Max, just sticking with personnel, Will Harris, a surprise, a massive shock when the news broke on Friday that we'd arranged a swap deal with Spennymoor. Sam Fishburn going out, Will Harris coming in. Just looking at his stats, 16 goals last season in 45 games, so that's 1 in 3. But his goal record this season is not very good at all. He's got no goals in 13 league games, now 14, including the game on Saturday. He's played 572 minutes so far this season. That's only averaging 44 minutes a game. Only 6 starts, I guess, could maybe make a bit of an argument by the fact he hasn't scored a goal. But I don't understand the signing. Break it down for me. What's going on there?
Well, as you say, his goal record last season is pretty reasonable. Scunny will be hoping that he can recapture some of that form. But it's quite an unusual arrangement in terms of a swap deal. Not too many have happened at clubs at any level in recent years. Maybe Sanchez and Mkhitaryan between Man U and Arsenal.
Good one, yeah.
But other than that, it's not something you see very often at any level. Clearly,
just to jump in, Will played on the Tuesday night for Spennymoor.
Yeah, so it was clearly something that was done at quite short notice. I always think of when we signed Grant McCann from Barnsley, Bastard scored twice for them like 2 days before we signed him. Look,
what a player he was, by the way.
If you're getting players in on loan from a side in your division, chances are it's not working out for them at that club. Otherwise, they wouldn't be leaving you on loan. I'm sure Spennymoor fans will be saying exactly the same thing in terms of Fishburn, who's obviously goal record at not just ourselves but all other clubs isn't amazing. Harris for them had quite a decent record last year. I thought he played all right on Saturday. He was no more awful than what he was surrounded with. He didn't get much service, so we'll reserve judgment on that front. But I think the club had probably made the decision that they didn't have anything to lose and that it wasn't quite working out with Fishburn. So let's roll the dice and see what happens. So it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't start at Bury on Saturday, but we'll see.
Marco, is it harsh on Fishburn?
Look, I know he had them 2 good starts on the Tuesday night game, and I can't remember who it was.
Rushall and Farsley.
And look, he did well. We were very surprised he started. To us, Butler not playing a recognised striker up front ahead of him told me that he wasn't going to be Butler's man. So I'm not surprised. Do I think it's harsh? Possibly. He's maybe not had a fair crack like a lot of other players have, but I think that transfer, the loan move, I think it's the longer that we're in this league I think it's something we're going to see more and more of. players moving around just to fill squads, and it happens a lot of this level. And probably something we're gonna have to get used to if we don't go up, which, let's be honest, doesn't look like at the minute.
But Markham made a very good point there, actually. You think of the away game at Scarborough when we played Roberts and Beeston as central strikers up to, which for the record did not work. As soon as Butler does that, rightly or wrongly, that sends a message to Fishburne. It just does. And players aren't stupid. Like they know when a manager rates them or not, because you see it in their decisions. That decision showed that he wasn't his man. So on that basis, it was only a matter of time. Knowing our luck, he'll go up the Spennymoor and score shitloads. But that won't be Fishburne's fault if it does.
Yeah.
Well, luckily we've got a 28-day recall on him, Marco, and who knew you could recall a player? It's a good job we've got a good secretary in place, isn't it?
Absolutely nothing.
That's right. What I have in front of me here, guys, is a copy of the non-league paper from Sunday, and I'm just going to read you the review from the game, a little write-up from the game on Saturday against Alfreton. I've highlighted a few things. So as we're looking at the Alfreton game, I thought I'd just read this out to you. And Max, just break this one down for me. So Scunthorpe United and Alfreton traded long balls, but little else in a dour affair. It goes on to say, goalmouth action was hard to come by at both ends of the field. The second half was equally as dull. And then when we're looking at the entertainment rating here, which goes from a 1-star over to a 5-star, 5-star being extremely entertaining, and you can't get any lower than a 1-star. Guess what they've given it out of 5 stars?
0.
1 star. The lowest it could be. Break that one down for me, Max.
But it was just shit. Look, we've all been to some 0-0 draws that actually aren't totally awful. Maybe you get done by the referee, maybe one side misses a few chances, goal disallowed, keeper has a great game, whatever. Honestly, that Alfreton game would make probably the top 3, certainly the top 5 worst ever games I've ever seen in my own eyes. It was honestly rancid. And as soon as I saw that setup and knew what the score was, because basically we set up as a 5-2-1-2, and then there's been a couple of people on Twitter who said straight after them that they didn't think the setup had anything to do with our shit performance. And what I would say to those people is, if you're taking drugs, I'll have some. It was just awful. As Marco said, you're playing Danny Whitehall, a 6'3" frontman, as our number 10. If you're going to start the 3, probably Harris would be the man I'd be playing there, just because he's the littlest. And it's not as if Whitehall is not an out-and-out Mark Beck, who I still think is a good signing on paper at this level. But Whitehall isn't, he's not like an Andy Keogh, he's not like a Paul Hayes, or even somebody like a Martin Patterson, who you might deploy to press a particularly effective holding midfielder out of possession. Just an insane setup. Because one, it then meant that as soon as Alfreton pressed us, we're playing at the 6th division. We're going long. We haven't got the technical quality. We're not Man City. We're not going to be able to beat a proper organised press. And as soon as we do that, Alfreton's 3 massive defenders are going to go, yeah, we'll deal with that all day long. We'll put 2 people on Beck. We'll make sure we win the first ball, and we'll send it back 60 yards that way. What they would have hated, is us getting the ball down and saying, actually, do you know what? We're gonna try and play here. Look, we did miss Roberts, and we were always going to miss Roberts. But how we responded to his absence in terms of our tactical and personnel setup absolutely stunk. And I could go on for all night, but I suspect Marco's going to jump in anyway.
Just before you do, Marco, I'd just like to credit Chris Sumpter with the article there. Forgot to say. So big shout out to Chris Sumpter.
Yeah.
Max is absolutely spot on. Like what we said with Fishburne before, starting no recognised strikers. Luke Williams on the bench. Perfect for that. Number 10 role. What is he thinking when Cal Roberts has picked up an injury? It's his chance, and then gets ignored for another 6+ striker at home. It's baffling.
Yeah, and I would also say the same about Brogan, who I thought was one of our best players away at Leamington. And it's probably the one thing I disagreed with Ben Maidment when he was talking about earlier on in the programme, in that I really do think that the setup at Leamington did help. Because when the conditions are difficult, you're playing for territory. Get your players higher up the field, particularly in the second half when you've got the wind at your back. If you're struggling and you haven't got the quality because you're missing Roberts, immediately saying, right, we're going to play with 3 big centre halves, takes a man out of the game who you can try and feed the ball to in the middle of the park and actually try and create some quality. You know, the 5-2-1-2 setup, I know sometimes they have their critics. I felt sorry for Beeston and Clonan. I genuinely did. You know, they've left that game with neck ache because of how we'd set up and how we were playing off the back of that. You know, they're just totally looking at long ball after long ball after long ball, and then they're isolated, just playing as a 2 with no holding midfielder behind them, no real number 10 in front of them. It's Danny Whitehall. The man is not a number 10. The setup on Saturday exacerbated the issues that we've had previously this season. We would have had a far better chance of getting a more positive performance if we'd stuck with what was basically a 4-3-1-2 at Leamington. You need to get your better players on the ball, higher up the pitch and in better positions. And if you just look at Alfreton's massive backline and go, yeah, fuck it. Let's go long, let's go direct. Let's play long diagonals from 60 or 70 yards and just try and win knockdowns. It was so ineffective. But the way we set up made sure that we were going to play like that. And I'm sorry, I had a bit of sympathy with the players in terms of, well, they didn't play that well, but the setup created that, and it almost necessitated it. How we set up tactically and how we played, and the fact that we made subs so late in the game, the fact that we stuck with 5 at the back right until the bitter end, it stunk on Saturday, and we were lucky to not get beat.
I mean, I don't know what to say, guys. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look.
I was saying, look, Alfreton had the 2 best chances in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I was stood behind the goal, and it didn't look like our scuff across the line to me anyway, not the whole of the ball. But in the last 5 minutes, after basically offering nothing all game, there was the long ball up our left, Alfreton's right, where Evans has misjudged the back header. Alfreton players nipped in, and he hasn't really quite got a proper connection on it. If he connects with that properly, it's 1-0. And then they had the other chance 3 or 4 minutes later where Fitzsimmons has made the one genuine save from either keeper all game. He's gone low to his right, but he wasn't quite far enough in the corner. Alfreton score either of them, and, you know, they deservedly take the 3 points back to Derbyshire. If we want to go to Marine and win and play anything other than shit, that setup has got to change. Like, you can pretend that your wing backs are getting forward. Oh, it's not a 5-2-1-2, it's a 3-4-1-2. We are not Antonio Conte's Chelsea, who won the league playing that sort of similar-ish system. Will Harris is not Diego Costa. Ross Barrows is not Cesar Azpilicueta. And we don't keep the ball on the ground. We've got to get an extra man in the middle of the park. We've got to keep the ball on the floor more. And those 60, 70-yard long diagonal balls, they can't be plan A. They can maybe be plan C, but they can't be plan A, B, and C. Saturday was awful, and we only have ourselves to blame.
Marco, let's have a little bit of a chat about Andy Butler's position that he finds himself in right now. You will have heard at the start of the programme, you'll have heard me and Ben talking about that, and I said, I'm still Butler in. I understand I'm in a shrinking group week on week. Marco, tell me I'm wrong.
If we're in a group chat now, you would get that gif of in between us. You can, but I won't be there because look, I think he's been on very thin ice for a long time. I think the Rylands game was big red flag, and then look, we saw a bit of improvement at Leamington, and Darlington was off this pod. Max saying quite liked for shape and it'd be good going forward. And look, he's just resorted back to this dross. For me, I know we're sceptical at the start of the season, and look, I hope I eat my words. I hope this podcast at the end of the season and we've got promoted and I look a dick. But for me, it's a no. It really is. Look, I'm not saying I know who's coming in, but there's got to be someone who can get a tune out of his team because there's a lot of quality there.
Max, even the most optimistic of Iron fan would probably concede that the clock is ticking now on Andy Butler, isn't it?
He's under pressure. There's no doubt about it. I wouldn't sack him right now. I don't like sacking managers, and I never have. I would echo the point that Ben made in his 20-game review at the start, which is that I think Dean deserved another year. I think he deserved a season without off-field fuckery, which he never got. And I think it reflects poorly on us for the fact that he never did, basically. But we are where we are. And, you know, it's difficult. Obviously, they've, at the time of recording, they've said to Butler, right, you know, you've got 2 weeks here, get on the training ground, make it work, fix what's currently not working, because it's very, very clearly not working. It's not just the results, it's the performance. And, you know, for me, actually, Alfreton was the worst so far this season because the setup was worse. You were playing 5 at the back for the sake of it. You weren't playing 5-3-2. You were sort of playing a shitty 5-2-1-2. It was worse than the game against Warren Rylands. And, you know, we go to Marine and we've got to get 3 points. Nothing less than that will be good enough for me. They're down there. They're struggling. We've got to go and grind it out by hook or by crook. Butler is under pressure. I wouldn't sack him, but he's going to be close. You heard the reaction on Saturday. You're grinning. Why are you grinning?
I'm grinning because Marco's just put in the group chat, if you say an answer that's over a minute long, you support the Conservatives.
That's brutal, that.
So that's where we are.
Right, well, on that basis, I'm in for a penny, I'm in for a pound. I think if we don't win the next 2 games, I think he will get sacked.
Why 2? Why
Butler,
2? 1.
Butler is I think is going to get more rope, for want of a better phrase, than Dean would have in this position, because the board made a big play in this summer of saying, right, Butler's our man, we're appointing him. It's football. He's totally the right man to lead us forward. And right now, deep down in their heart of their hearts, and they may be regretting that. Look, I suspect that they'll certainly be regretting his contract extension. Jesus Christ!
Well, the thing is, contract.
I was thinking the other day. Nobody on this board, however they save the club and what they've done, will never be forgotten. Not one of them, especially now Turnbull's left, will have had to sack a manager. Not one of them. They won't know when.
Who sacked
Jimmy Dean?
Who sacked Dean,
mate? He was under contract. His contract didn't come to a natural end.
Not in the middle of the season.
No, and that is fair. That is a different. Yeah. Doing it in the middle of the season is a different dynamic.
They do not know when's the point that they need to be sacking.
Right.
It's black and white. It's black and white with Jimmy Dean. They know. Look, the goal was to go up. It didn't happen, and they've been brutal.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean.
If Butler's got the same goals, like Max said, he's got a lot of longer rope because we aren't going up automatic. There's no chance. And look, like Max said, if he loses the next 2, he's gone. But I don't know what's going to change. This 2 weeks was perfect to look for some personnel. Look,
this is for me. What's got to change now is the setup of performances. I'm sorry, Andy. You've tried 5 at the back. We've got a pretty large sample size now. We played nearly half the season. And in too many games, it hasn't worked.
We averaged 1.66 points playing 5 at the back.
Yeah,
nowhere near the magic 2.
Correct. It's not. Yeah, and last season 2 wouldn't have been enough. But you know, we've got. If we're going to not get the results, let's at least play okay. I do think at Leamington that was the way forward for me. Getting Brogan into the middle of the park in a 4-3-1-2. With Roberts or with Williams as a number 10 behind Beck and Whitehall. That is a goer. And then if you want a plan B, right, let's play with width. Let's go 4-3-3. Let's get Carlton on one wing. Let's get Roberts on the other. Let's try and stretch the play. There are 2 viable tactical alternatives compared to what we've got right now. And what we've been given was a 5-2-1-2 with total long ball football. It was totally ineffective. Danny Whitehall playing as a number 10. The central midfielders isolated. Tactically on Saturday, that was as bad as I've ever seen any Scunthorpe United side set up ever, anywhere, in any game.
It was an absolute shit show. And look, we know Butler's inexperienced. I think we've gave him a lot of rope, a lot of time. But look, it's just so basic. Like Max says,
I'm not giving up on him yet.
Oh, I don't want to. But look, we can all see it. We can all see it every week. And the fact that it's not changing, like Max said, Leamington seemed to get that formula spot on. Brogan in the side, I thought was really impressive. Look, I saw people on Facebook and Twitter slagging off Clunan. Like, look, forget about what we sponsor him. If he was shy, I'd say, look, I don't give a shit, he's shy. But I mean, I felt so sorry for him on Saturday. It was literally
we could have had Zidane and Perlo playing that central midfield 2 on Saturday, and they'd have been wasted.
Clunan and Beeston might as well have been at Donny Road End because honestly, they had no intention of being involved with that game, how we set up. So for people to even question their ability on Saturday, it was baffling. You might as well blame a lass giving hot dogs off the kiosk because they're just not involved in the game. It's absolutely mental. Like, that formation is just to bypass the whole midfield. It was just like, if you're really tall and big, you're going to be involved in this game. Anyone with a slight bit of decent ball skill, nah, this wasn't for you, mate. Oh, so frustrating.
Yeah, and just on one final point on Butler, because you mentioned that there earlier in terms of him turning around to supporters and basically saying, does somebody fancy a crack? And I've heard it now in probably 3 or 4 different interviews he's done with BBC Radio Homicide. For a bloke who played nearly 600 games in a football league, for a big 6'3" centre half, he's got to do better at handling criticism. And I'm sorry, I think that's partly due to his inexperience. And when they first appointed him, I pointed out his inexperience there, and unfortunately, I think that has borne truth in terms of how he's reacted to A, criticism, and B, tactical pressures and in-game management. That inexperience is showing right now. And, the combination of him and Schofield is very experienced, they've got to change. They've got to. This cannot hold what's happening right now.
Yeah,
I'll be there at Marine, but it's something different has got to show here, and it's got to show really quickly.
I am disappointed with the off-field stuff, and we're not blowing it out of proportion here, but I've made a couple of half comments about this on the podcast and probably not really gone into it. But there was, after the Chester game away, there's a clear incident where he and a fan had verbals with each other, and the fan took a lot of the criticism for that. And maybe he should have, maybe he shouldn't. I don't know. I didn't see the full incident, but that's one. There was the incident on Saturday where a fan has, basically said, why is everybody coming back to defend a throw-in? And he's turned around to him and said, well, do you want to take over then? I mean, the fan would have been within his rights to say, yes, please, give me the keys. Because, and then there's lots of, I heard him at the fans forum say, you give me a bit of criticism, I'm going to come back at you now. And I think, I'm going to defend him, right? I am going to defend him, but that has to stop. Like that kind of having a nibble at fans, you've got to do better than that.
Genuinely, I'm going to give a really tin pot over the example. All right, if I'm on the doors and somebody says "fuck off, Labour Party," then I'm not going to turn around and go, "Oh yeah, actually, well, how do you think that? All the others are rubbish as well." You say, "Have a nice day, sir. Thank you very much," and you move on, because that's the most productive use of your time. And getting into slanging matches with people in front of witnesses doesn't help you, doesn't help the people you're trying to help. And in the end, it makes you, even cynically, look worse. And, somebody who, at us, at Huddersfield, at Walsall, at Donnet, Butler's playing us some good managers, and probably some bad ones as well. I'm disappointed that he hasn't yet learned that lesson, because it's not going to go away. And if we don't start winning games, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, anything to add, Marco?
This is a really positive podcast. But
look, this is what people want to know, don't they? People want to know the truth. What are we thinking, right?
No.
And it's like what people have said. Butts was all right to go out there and lap it up when we were winning, and we were all right to give it the big one. But we've got to be honest, mate. It's not very good, is it?
When Butler got appointed, I mean, there's probably a minority who thought, probably me included, to be fair, Jimmy probably deserved another season. I think we all agreed on that.
I think a lot of people
I think we're all agreed.
Yeah, because look, if Dean had been out of contract, assessing the situation and going, let's appoint the first man, the best possible one. But when it came out, when the podcast exclusively revealed that Dean was still under contract for another year, even I think of Aidan, for example, if we'd had on before, he was a Dean critic. Even he turned around and went, well, that's a bit fucking odd, isn't it? And we've had a number of mistakes which have got us into this situation.
I think I need to publicly apologise to Jimmy, actually, because I ripped him to pieces so many times last season for playing Alfie Beeston on the wing, and I think he does the job there, you know.
What is wingers? This is a funny concept. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. What are you on about?
I'd put him on the wing. I'd put him on the wing now if then we got a winger on.
I'd put anything on the wing. Honestly,
I'd put that last serving hot dogs on the wing.
Yeah, honestly, if I see a winger at Glanford Park this
right.
season, I'm just going to start shaking.
Do you want, before we move on, do you want one upside from the game against Alfreton on Saturday?
Was it the waffles?
I had an absolutely banging pre-match waffle. They were terrific. They were really good, and I hope they come back.
Who has a waffle at a football match?
I don't know, but can a waffle play up wing?
No, Butler's Egwin. Can he play centre back? Who's this Belgian lad you've got?
Did it have 5 lattices? Did it have 4? I don't know.
But yeah, like on the earlier point, I think every single Scunny fan that first game of the season, Brackley away, everybody was 100% behind Butler. I don't think he's came into this job where people have been like, "Oh, I'm really upset." I think everybody, especially given his stature with the club and how he's represented Scunthorpe, we all really wanted this to succeed.
Even though he's taking pop shots on Twitter saying he was the cheap option, even they, I think, probably wanted him to do well.
No, look, I really.
Hey, I mean, what we're doing, like gender neutral binary terms here. You can call me by name.
But yeah, it's just one of them things. Well, one thing about this podcast is we just say it as we feel, and there's no point. There's no point.
And I believe it said it was an appointment that came with risks, that he was inexperienced, and let's hope it doesn't all end in tears. We go to Marine and get done, it's going to all end in tears.
Look, I still think, do I think we'll go up this season? I don't know. I still think I'd stick with Andy Butler for a little bit longer at least, especially now that we've decided we're giving him this 2 weeks, because
look, genuinely, so would I. But there's 2 things that need to happen. One, there needs to be an acceptance that the status quo is not good.
Yeah,
I'm not sure there is that right now.
Accept that. And the second thing, things need to improve off the pitch.
There needs to be a plan to change it.
Yeah. Also, on a side note, I tried to do a bit of scouting at the weekend, and I asked Neil Bishop.
Football friend.
He came to the pizza man. I said, "What do you think to the Scunthorpe job?" And let's just say he will not be applying anytime soon. Let's just say that.
Have you met anybody famous in the last week, Barry? Anybody you want to name from?
Have I?
Yes.
I've no idea. No, I'm just taking the piss out of Marco. I haven't.
Who have I met?
You put one in. We both met a former Scunny player on the same day.
Oh yeah, of course you did. Yeah. He was managing that kids game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, J Rowe.
Clearly a memorable meeting for you.
Hey, tell you what, a cracking lad him actually. If you are listening, Jay, can I tell you the story? Well, he might be, because I spotted him.
What was it then?
7-1. They absolutely dipped us. Yeah. I was giving him the big end as well. And when we scored at the end, literally before the game finished, we scored, and then the referee blew his whistle, and I was like, "Yeah, we'd have fucking done you, mate. 10 more minutes, we had you on the ropes." Anyway,
just take the top off, start running around.
I went up to him before and I said, "Oh, you won't know who I am, but my name's Barra from," and he said, "Oh, I know you. You're Gareth's mate from the podcast." I was like, "Yes,
Gareth's mate. That's brilliant.
I'll take that.
That's us.
Gareth's entourage.
Yeah.
Hamlet.
Nice. Like that.
If anybody's wondering where Gareth is, he's currently driving a train.
Well, no, he's not. He's on a static train, which is broken down.
Very breaking trains.
He's not having much luck at the minute. Right, we've got about 10 minutes left, so we might not get through to FPL, but if we could have a whistle stop tour of the Hero Idiot and Moment segment, that'd be great. So, Max, you're known for being quick. Hit us up with your Hero of the Week.
Great one. My hero of the week came in the 99th minute, which is often what people say as well.
It's not.
The Leyton Orient goalkeeper, Josh Keeley, an absolutely terrific header to keep Orient in the cup, and then they went on to win it in the 121st minute. I love a goalkeeper scoring. Great header, great scenes at Leyton Orient.
Fantastic answer. Marco?
What's this hero?
Yes.
I'm on my notes here. So my hero...
Come on, Bonnie Tyler.
It's a bit soppy, and earlier on in the podcast, obviously, we had that update from Ben. It's just really good to hear about how his dad's moved out of hospital now. And not just that, it's a joint one. Again, it's soppy. I don't want the points, but these just are my heroes. And also Evie had another operation the day before yesterday, saw on Facebook, and she's came out of that okay. So massive shout out to Evie and obviously Carl and family. So they're my heroes.
You don't want the points. Well, you know you've got them.
Well, put one on next to my name.
Well done, Marco. Well done.
Who is your idiot of the week, Marco?
So, I've just forgot my idiot now. Give Max his, because I've got mine wrote down.
Okay, Max, who's your idiot of the week?
My idiot of the week is FA for abolishing FA Cup replays. It's cost multiple non-league clubs tens of thousands of pounds, including Oldham. And it was an absolute ridiculous move, particularly for the FA Cup second round. Like, if you don't want to have FA Cup final replays anymore, fine. It's not 1978. I get that. But there's no reason why Market Harbour, who are away at Reading, they've been robbed of potentially £100,000, including TV money, which for a club of that level is transformative. It's a disgraceful decision by the FA, which they've done without any proper consultation. And if they've got any shame, they'll reverse it in the next round of negotiations. It's disgraceful. I hate it.
Marco's going to take some top in that.
Yeah, that's a good answer, because Pep and Klopp's cried for that many years that they've got what they wanted. And
no, it's that though, isn't it?
Exactly. But then why? But even caving to them in the fourth round is one thing. Do you think Pep Guardiola gives a shit about the FA Cup second round?
Look at
not now
of these big Premier League squads.
Yeah,
the second and third teams that they could fill out that would still beat Harbour. Come on, I've got no sympathy. Good answer. Mine came yesterday in the Premier League games. I don't know if anyone's seen this. It's happened before. It's Jack Stevens, the Southampton defender, who pulled Cucurella's hair back.
Cucurella?
Yeah, these players that play the game like VAR isn't a thing just baffle me. And yeah, absolute idiot.
You go to the right districts of Amsterdam. You have to pay good money for that.
I don't think that's what we were getting at, but yeah, he's my idiot.
Max gets the point, not only for the good answer, but that terrific joke.
Unexpectedly so, I know.
The Lads podcast, who can I just say, I'm going to give you some figures after this segment that are going to blow your mind. But, Mark, what was your moment of the week?
Mine, again, was yesterday. So I find myself watching the Arsenal-Man United game. And if we think we were similar to Stoke-esque on Saturday, Arsenal... with a set piece is one deadly machine. And it was just so crazy to watch. Every corner and set piece to a T was just looked like always could be a goal. And it was the same thing every time. Man United just really didn't suss out how to defend it. Onana was pinned into his goal. Declan Rice's delivery was pinpoint. It was really, really good quality delivery. And look, they scored 2. Could have been 4 or 5 from corners. They've scored 22 corners from the start of the year, which is absolute madness.
Like seven more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Man U were defending corners in their pre-match warm-up. They knew what was coming, but they still couldn't stop it.
Yeah, it was good.
Do you reckon that Butler looks like that's what Butler sees when he's thinking of direct football? He's thinking that's how it's going to work out for me, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, but the one big thing that I said there is you had Declan Rice
yeah.
putting that ball on a 50 pence. Like, we don't have that.
And you've got to win corners in the first place.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, everyone's saying that, it's like Stoke and stuff, but no, Arsenal only get that many opportunities because they're such an attacking team anyway.
Correct.
With corners.
And Arsenal, and I hate to break this to people, but Arsenal do play with wingers. Like one of them's called Bukayo Saka.
Yeah. I hear he's pretty good, actually.
He's not bad.
Yeah, he's decent.
He'd be
Max.
He'd be on the bench if money back.
Yeah. Oh, Bukayo, over here, mate. Get yourself on the bench next to Jason Law.
We'd be playing him as a central midfielder.
Yeah,
goes to Butts. Yeah, goes to Butts, and he's like, "Oh, I've just got a really slight strain, but I'll be all right for Saturday. Oh, out for the season, Bukayo. Off you go, off you go, son.
Yeah, you come back when you're 6'3".
Yeah. Max, what was your moment of the week?
My moment of the week was after full time on Saturday. I'm walking around to go have a drink in the exact lounge with my dad. And all I could hear was, "You don't know what you're doing." And that's the thing with the moments, is that they don't have to be good, they don't have to be bad. Sometimes they can be both. But as a moment, that was pretty hard to beat. Even after the Warrington game, there wasn't really that. Like, that felt like real, displeasure being very understandably articulated by the paid punters on the Donny Road end.
You probably thought you were back on that doorstep, didn't you? Touting for your party.
No, there weren't enough swear words there. It was a massive moment, and it might be something we look back on in 6 months, going, that was when it turned, for better or worse.
Yeah, do you know what? Max has just taken this. It doesn't have to be a good moment. It can be a fucking grim one. So Max takes that 2-1, and yes, I'm going to give you my moment of the week. So
That's the first one I've won in bloody months.
Yeah, well done, Max. You deserved it, just for the jokes alone. My moment of the week was the 2024 Spotify Wrapped figures that came out this week. And can I just say, before I give you these figures, I'm going to blow your mind here, Marco. Spotify isn't even a platform that we aggressively pursue. So YouTube is where we get. Yeah,
I would have genuinely thought like 90% of our listeners are
maybe not quite 90, but
aggressively pursue makes it sound like we're chasing Spotify down the street. That's a bit.
Well, listen. No, this is how you get 3 kids, mate. You know what I mean?
It sounds like Bar on a night owl.
I'm not going to make the joke about a well-known cooking TV show. No, right. So let's have these figures. So listen to this: 364 people on Spotify have us in their top 10 listened to podcasts. 281 have us in their top 5. And listen to this, Max: 115 people in the world listen to us more than any other podcast. How cool is that? If that figure was
a bit Jeremy Clarkson, that in the world.
Well, speaking of the world, we have been streamed in 16 countries over the past 12 months. 16 countries. We're fucking global. We're absolutely massive.
It's crackers, though, isn't it? It's amazing. And look, we joked with the Farnsley fans before the home game there, said, look, if 4 people listen and 3 of them don't like you, it doesn't matter. But without the listeners, without the viewers, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, it's all amazing. I think those Spotify Wrapped figures genuinely blew our minds. So thank you to everyone who's been listening.
And finally, the podcast that we were most matched to. So people who listen to our podcast also listen to, and this was the thing that made me most pleased.
Crying.
Shagged, Married, Annoyed.
Very good.
And Under the Cosh. How cool is that? We're fucking competing, lads.
I've always said that Marco looked like John Parkin.
Yeah. Cool. A little bit bigger.
I tell you what, do not tempt Butler with John Parkin at the minute, because he'll be straight back.
He's like, John, how do you fancy
I think,
playing
to be
centre
fair,
back?
Well, so I believe Parkin did genuinely start his career at York when he was like 17 as a centre half.
Yeah, he's on the phone with Dion Dublin. Any chance? Versatile, mate. Right. I was going to say something else, and it's yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Have a good night.
It has been a pleasure, but I'm going to tell you one more thing. We've been working behind the scenes on another podcast to bring you guys, which hopefully will be out in the next couple of weeks. And it was one I enjoyed doing. We've already filmed it. The time, I'm not even going to let you guys know when it's coming out. You're just going to be there going about your daily business. Bang! Straight in your face. Have some of that. A surprise podcast with somebody. Who could it be? Who knows? But there's some really funny stories on that podcast. And as I say, really enjoyed.
I feel like the Alfreton defeat has just sent The Alfreton game has just sent us all crackers.
Yeah. Well, listen, wait till you hear
we're going to be sat in the dark at Christmas, just sort of, rocking backwards and forwards.
Yeah. Playoffs will be fine. Playoffs will be fine. It'll be fine. Playoffs is down.
We're not going to I love National League North. National League North's ace. I want another year. Butlers Egwin. Oh, no. Step 3, the way we're going, lads. Right. Yeah, none of this verbal shit. Right, guys. I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
I need some sleep. So, yeah, that was the INL podcast. And as always, professional, slick, top caliber. And that's just Max. That's just Max. What a guy. Yeah.
Up the iron.
Up the in iron.